Okay. So what I want to ask about, since you're here and I can give me a little
Oh, she want
free.
all the relationship advice.
No.
Let me sit back.
She's like, I'm done now.
This is Ming.
No, it's not even a. I'm gonna do the relationship advice last. Okay, my relationship life is going kind of good.
Okay.
But that's
Yeah, you ain't tweet crazy in like 2 weeks. It's been good.
Oh, good weeks. That's a good. 2 weeks is a good run.
yeah.
Not for her.
For me,
It's an amazing run.
girl, 2
It's
weeks
an
is like a
amazing one.
lifetime.
Cause you
I'm
know,
going into my second lifetime at this point.
cause she drag him.
But like what I wanted to ask about was because like when I was talking to Sarah, she was talking about, because I was like, I'm always in like some toxic shit. I actually like secretly love it, which
At least you admit that. That's good.
So I just want to
beginning
know,
of
like, I wanted to talk to you about like how you felt about like childhood trauma showing up in like adulthood, and like how very real that is.
Very real. Okay, where we trying to go with this? Okay. So, one thing that's interesting, even though you like bringing up relationships, so over the first like 5 to 7 years of our lives, we learn 75% of the things we're ever going to know.
Oh wow!
Right. So you are yourself. You have your character, your personality. Like you see your kids, right? They are them, and they will keep being like that until the day they die, right? When they're 110 years old. And so you absorb a lot of this information passively by watching your family, by watching the people around you, your caregivers, things like this. And so if there is a trauma, that can really shape and reshape the way that you kind of like maneuver through the world. And so a trauma is anything that like makes you feel like your life is at risk. And so for kids, a lot more things can make them feel at risk than us because they're like this big and we're bigger. So it can be even something like there's this one book that I love called The Body Keeps Score. And he gives an example in The Body Keeps Score of a girl who it's like so legit, such a good book. And we can talk about that later, but like this little baby girl she's in her crib and there's a horrible thunderstorm outside, lightning, thunder, all of that. And her parents don't come to get her. And she remembered this and she kind of carried this on as trauma and felt like people weren't going to be there for her. And so sometimes little things like that. And so that's why, when people say like, don't judge yourself too hard. Like if you want to be a good parent, you probably are one because like you really can't protect them from everything, right? So we get little traumas over the course of our life, right? So anything that makes us feel in danger. So it could be something like real, like we call it like trauma with a big T, like something like you've been in an accident, something actually bad happened to you, you witnessed something bad happen to somebody else, or trauma with a little t. So these are things like divorce of a parent or, divorce that we go through. So these things are very traumatic, but they're not like the life-threatening type of trauma, losing a job, having to move, being in toxic relationships. These are all traumas with a little t. And so these things can compile and can shape the way that we see the world because with trauma, you want to protect yourself, right? It's your fight, flight, freeze response. So it tells you like...
That's what my therapist...
Right? They talk about that?
Yeah. And Amy.
Listen, I want to know her. I want to find her. Which one are you? Am I being personal?
Well, I'm flighty.
You're like, I'm out.
I just...
yeah. No conversation, no nothing.
And I've learned from just like, I've come from, a childhood of two addicted parents. And like, so I've learned to like put a lot of bad things in the back of my mind and we never have to talk about it again. I mean, I never have to deal with it. And then like, even so like when my grandmother passed, right? My grandmother passed in March. She lived in Detroit. Me and my grandmother was like click tight, okay? And when she passed, I was like sad, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. I was like a little sad, but I wasn't really sad because I had pushed it in the back. I went to her funeral, of course. I actually was the last person. I held her hand until she took her last breath. Like I said, I wouldn't leave her side. And went to her funeral, and then once I buried her, March 24th, I forgot about it. Like in my mind, she just lived in Detroit. I lived in Atlanta, and I just hadn't talked to her. And it was so crazy that I had actually begun to believe that she was still alive, but I just didn't. I just hadn't seen her because she lived in Detroit. When on that Thanksgiving, I was making her dressing. And I was like, oh shit, let me call my grandmother to see, do I need to, do I pre-cook the celery and onions or the green peppers, or do I add, is it red peppers or green peppers? So I started to call my grandmother and she didn't answer the phone, and I left her a message like, hey, I know you're not that busy, old lady, call me back. And then once I hung up the phone, I like really started to mourn her death on Thanksgiving Day, and everybody was like, "Well, your grandmother's been dead for 6 months." I said, "Yeah, but I forgot. I
She
literally
died for me today.
yeah, like I literally pushed it in the back of my mind so far that I thought she was still alive, and I was calling her for a recipe."
Yeah. And that's one of the stages of mourning is denial. So it's actually very natural for people. You go through this stage where you're just like, this didn't happen. Like,
No way.
This didn't happen. Like, no way, no possible way. I lost my dad in June, so I definitely am fully a part of it.
condolences.
Oh yeah, it's wild. It is wild. But you're along for the ride. Like literally, some days you just cry your eyes out. Other days you're just like, I'm fine, right? But what I'm hearing here, if it's polite,
Go ahead.
is when you're little, I was saying like you learn passively by watching, and so we also learn how to cope. We learn, so when something bad happens to one of the adults in our life, we watch them yell, scream, cry, process, hug, support each other, like whatever they do to get themselves through this bad experience. And so if we have parents that don't cope well on their own and they cope through avoidance, so like using substances, we call it like avoidance coping, right? So instead of dealing, it's like, you know what? I just want to feel good right now. I don't want to deal with this, so I'm just going to feel good. I'm going to do something else. I don't want to deal with this right now. It's too much for me. And so we kind of learn like, you know what? That's how people deal with things. Like, because what else do you see? You're your entire life, 100% of your life has been watching this specific thing, and that's what you know.
I agree with that. Like with my child's father, he was like, "Let's just stay together for Story," and I was just like, I would prefer for Story to see her mother just healthy and happy than to see her in the same household. And let's be very honest, like I didn't grow up in a 2-family household, and that was like one of like my biggest things, like being successful. And like I did IVF. I paid almost $150,000 to get my daughter here. So you mean to tell me I fucking spent all this money and we not finna make it? And I was so fucking embarrassed. I was so embarrassed. Like that was the most embarrassing thing in my whole entire fucking life, was to have to like process being a single parent, right? But then I was like, do I want to like fake it and be in this relationship just to say like Story lived in a 2-family household? Or do I want Story to know her mom is happy and healthy and living and being the best? Like I was so depressed and so like in postpartum, and it was just, and I was just like, you know what? It's more important for her to see me healthy and happy than to see both of us under the same roof. She's just going to have to learn to realize that it's 2 Christmases that's going to happen.
That's it. She has 2 bedrooms. She has all that.
Yeah.
Because I also think, as Black folk, as melanated people, as people of the diaspora, we are collective, right? I think that we've been feeding into this kind of like European narrative that it's like your family, like you, your partner, your kid, you leave your family at 18. That's not what we did. That's not what we do. And so I think if we raise our kids together, it kind of doesn't matter. You got to have your tribe. You got to have your village around you. So it's like, if she needs a male role model, she got an uncle, she got a cousin, she got a grandpa, she got somebody.
And honestly, the best thing we could have done was broke up, because me and him are really good friends. We co-parent so fucking good. We co-parent so good, and we're such good friends that people be like, y'all that cool? I'm like, yeah, and it's so crazy because like, Story be like, oh, I'm going over to my daddy's house. Or, oh, like she know, like, you know what I mean? When she come in the house, like, she was with her dad this weekend. When she came in the house this morning, she's like, Mommy, I'm at Mommy house. And it was just like, she knows, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. I love that she can see me and him be amicable, be friends, be cool. It's like the best. I mean, I'm not going to promote, being a single mom, but it's working out in my favor.
That's more important. Being in the world of psychology, they call it being a good enough parent, right? So it's being a parent that, you can manage your emotions in ways that are, healthy for your kids to see, because kids can see sadness. They need to see anger. They need to see all the emotions and how you deal with them, right? So you don't have to necessarily hide things from them, but show them like the resolution. Like, I'm sad, grandma's dead, I'm crying. This is what happens when you're sad. Do you want to give me a hug? Mm-hmm. Do you want to hug mommy because she's sad? We can just sit here. You want to like watch, we can let's look at pictures of her, and so finding a way to be as healthy as you can be is how you're a good parent.